Okay, let's get started with Module 14. We're going to look at quadratic equations in this module, and we're going to look at some different ways to solve quadratics. So this is the standard form of a quadratic equation. In this first section, 14.1, we're going to look at the square root method of solving quadratics. And up to this point, if you had to solve a quadratic, what you might do is you might get it set equal to 0, and then factor and get 6y plus 2 minus 2, and then we would use the zero product property, and we would find y equals 2 over 6 and y equals negative 2 over 6, and then we get y equals 1/3 and y equals negative 1/3. So that's the method that maybe you've used so far in solving a quadratic. But what we're going to look at now is a new way to solve a quadratic equation using the square root method. So what we're going to do here is we're going to isolate this y squared by dividing by 36. Okay, and then we got what we get here is y is equal to 1/9. Okay, and then what we can, y squared. Okay, and then what we can do here is take the square root of this side and take the square root of this side. And now when we're doing the solving and using the square root, we have to remember that we get both the principal square root and the negative square root. So what we'll get for our answer here is y is equal to plus or minus, that's how we read that, plus or minus 1/3, which in written out in two answer format, we could write it this way or with a negative 1/3 first. So, okay, so taking a look at this one, the problem says y plus 11 quantity squared. What we can do is square root this. Square root this, remember our plus or minus here. What we get is x plus 11 equals plus or minus 8. Then we can subtract 11 from both sides. I like to put this negative 11 up front here, and what it'll look like then is negative 11 plus or minus 8. And then a nice way to do this is maybe write out both of these problems that you have to work here, and we get negative 3, comma, negative 19, and we get x equals, okay? And then looking at this one, it's already isolated, so what we can do is square root this side, square root this side, put the plus or minus, and what we get is y is equal to the square plus or minus the square root of 20, but we have to remember from previous modules that we should simplify this, and this breaks into the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. So we have plus or minus 2 radical 5. Y is equal to. Okay. That gets us started with using the square root method of solving quadratics.